Hi, welcome to the Laugh, Learn, Love podcast with Mr. and Mrs. Mr. I'm your host, Mr., aka Jeffrey Mr. And right beside me is my wife of almost 15 years, 14 plus.
Yes.
2 kids.
Oh, yes.
And listen, we've survived. We almost drowned together, but we're still alive. We got a great show. So
I am Mrs. Mr., aka Dana Mr., and together we are the
Misters.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes, I'm so excited about this show.
Yes.
We have a special guest today.
Yes, very special guest.
Yes.
And I'm with no further ado, because we're talking about how to save your marriage, your relationship, if your partner
don't want to change.
We've got your messages. If you're on YouTube, we got.
I don't think he saw me pointing at him.
I didn't see it. No, listen, y'all know the truth here. You've been with us. You're part of our MF, our Mr. Fan,
family.
Mr.
Yes.
Fan, MF there. So we have our special guest today. She is going to help us. Lovely lady. She's a wife of 3. Oh well, not a wife of 3.
No.
Mother of 3.
Wife of 1, mother of 3 boys. Yes.
Yes.
So we would like to introduce Miss. Is it Miss or Doctor?
Mrs.
Beth Miller.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. So like you said, I'm Beth Miller, and I have been married 12 years, and I have 3 lovely, energetic boys, ages 5, 7, and 9. So I am surrounded by lots of male energy.
Yeah.
Fun times. So then I have been a teacher for the last 13 years. I teach psychology and sociology. And recently I started Soulify Wellness. So this is an incredible method that's been helping women make inner shifts that are transforming all aspects of their life, but in particular their marriages. And so I am promoting this and sharing this method with others because it's just amazing to be able to take control of something like your relationship, which often feels out of control as you're trying to change others. And sometimes it's just a cycle of repetitive arguments that just is not coming to an end.
Oh, girl, you said a mouthful. I'm looking forward to this episode.
Exactly. Yes. And so if you listen, we don't want to just we want to learn this too, because we have something to say. We're trying to work through some of those things.
Yes.
And this is almost 15 years in. We get messages from people who are 6 months in, Beth, from 5 years in, like, what have I done? This person will not. And most of it stems from trying to change the other person, or like, if they would just do this, this would be better. And so I'm very interested in this conversation today to see some real things that we could do to help save marriages. You see so many people, moving on, getting divorced.
Yeah. And I love what she said, thought about like how when you feel like things are out of control, especially for women, we want to feel like things are in control. So when you feel like things are out of the orbit, or it's just. So I'm looking forward to this conversation today for sure. So yes. But before we do,
every episode we like to laugh, learn, and love. And I didn't get a chance to introduce this yet, but every episode, right? So every season of life, especially marriage, we want you to laugh, learn, and love. So especially today, you're in marriage season, sometimes you got sunshine. If you've been married long enough, and you have some rain, you have some typhoons, like we were driving through yesterday.
Yes.
But and so what do you do about that? And so every episode we like to laugh, learn, and love. We're gonna start off with the laugh portion first, and we're gonna put Beth so you get a chance to get to know her.
Yes.
And Soulify Wellness, so to see exactly who we are. So as anything, you gotta ask open-ended questions, and we have 13. We call this affectionately the Mr. 13. So we're going to put her through the Mr. 13 and ask that. So Beth, you're just going to respond with the first thing that comes to mind when you hear these questions, okay? Are you ready, Beth?
Scared, nervous.
Okay, well, let's get started. Okay, question number 1. What type of milk do you put in your cereal?
Almond milk, for sure. I have a slight dairy intolerance. So yeah, I go almond milk all the way.
Yes, awesome. Me too. We're the same person. I feel like. Number 2, would you rather be besties with Beyonce or Rihanna?
Ooh, Beyonce. I love the single dance. I would be Beyonce.
Okay. What's the capital of New York?
Oh my gosh, New York City?
Yes.
I'm Canadian. You don't know. I'll ask you, what's the capital of Canada? Do you know that one?
Oh.
Is it Toronto or Montreal?
Montreal.
It's Ottawa. You would think Toronto or Montreal.
Ottawa?
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. I would have never thought
I've
that.
heard of
Never known that as well. I've never known that as well. Okay. Are boneless wings chicken nuggets?
No, not at all. Not at all. My kids would definitely put boneless chicken wings in its own category. Chicken nuggets is like a step below.
Two different things. Two different things. People will fight us over this.
Did you ever believe in Santa Claus?
Yes, I still do. What are you talking about?
Yes, we did too.
Okay, I'm gonna switch this one up. If you could eat any fish in the world, what would it be?
Salmon
Salmon.
with a little maple syrup and a tiny bit of Dijon mustard, a nice little glaze.
Yes, but a little bit. I don't know what that. Is that the mustard you like? Then the Dijon.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. Do you Instagram your food?
No, I've never mastered that art of taking the most beautiful picture. It always looks horrible when I take pictures. It looks like mush on a plate. So I know I would could. Something
Yes.
How long would you have pizza out before you ate it? So
I feel like it gets overnight and then eat it in the morning. Back in university days, wouldn't you still eat it?
Oh yeah. So see, yep. Okay. Have you ever been to Africa?
Ooh, no, I have not. I would love to go.
Okay, got it. Yes, I've been. It's amazing. It's never been. Let's see. What's the most number of hours you watch TV in a single day?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. What have I binge watched? These days, not so much, but back in the day, it feels like it could be like 8 hours in a row.
Yes. It only can happen when you binge watching a show, because then, especially on Netflix, you just continue on the next episode. You was like, okay, I'm gonna get up. But then you're like, no, they drag you back in. Yes.
What sound does a seal make?
Let's see. Would you rather lose all your hair or gain 50% more hair?
Ooh, 50% more hair for
Oh,
sure.
wow, you have a lot now.
It needs a haircut. We are still in lockdown. We can't get haircuts. So I think I've had a haircut once in the last year and a half.
Oh, wow. Where do you live? Where do you live again?
We're in Ontario, so in between like kind of Buffalo, Detroit, Toronto, and we are in a lockdown again. So I need a
wow. Oh, wow. A year and a half without. Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have been on and off lockdowns, but we are back in, and I should have scheduled an appointment in between. So I'm ready to watch a YouTube video and do it myself.
That's the way to go down. That's the way to go. Okay, you have two more. Do you have any friends taller than 6'4"?
No.
No.
I have short friends.
No tall friends here. No.
Okay, if there's a spider in your house, do you kill it or set it free?
I set it free. I love spiders. They get bugs I don't like in the house, so I let them sometimes stay or I release them to the world. There's other bugs that not make it outside, they get squashed.
Okay. Save it. I've killed some spiders before, so it's one of those things of trying to make it through it and let them make it.
Yes.
So, okay.
Well, you survived the Mr. 13.
So we can get into it now. We're talking about today, we're talking about how do you save your marriage if your spouse does not want to change? And so we're with Beth Miller here. Yes. And so we're gonna get started first. First topic is why is recognizing your triggers the foundation for saving a marriage? And so talking about triggers. So tell us a little bit, Beth, about, okay, if we're married here, what are triggers like? And then how do we recognize them? And how do I help my partner recognize them?
Yeah, for sure. So your trigger is any unwanted emotion that might arise. So let's just think about all those unwanted emotions that are rising throughout the day. You feeling frustrated, annoyed, rejected, sad, angry, embarrassed, jealous, like the list goes on and on. So when those emotions are popping up, those are instant triggers. And so they can come from your partner's like words, they can come from actions, behaviors, and sometimes they even come up just from memories or some things like social media or watching any types of media. So that's what it triggers, and that's where they come from.
So, okay, so putting this in perspective then, so like anything that Dana may say to me that I may feel triggered from it, and it may come from something that I've experienced or something, and so now an emotion comes from something that has happened, or vice versa, right? And so I'm sorry,
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Like, and I'll give you an example. My husband and I, we met in high school. So we dated on and off, and we got married at 26.
okay.
And I have like more of like a kind of shy, very sensitive personality. I'm not extremely comfortable sharing my opinion. He is the opposite. He's loud. He has no problem sharing his opinion. He's extremely confident, well-spoken. So those two personalities can be kind of like oil and water at times, right? And you add a little stress, some overwhelm, and maybe some fatigue, which we all know having young kids. And it's just a recipe for disaster. So I was always wanting to kind of change him. Like when I felt those feelings of anger, mad, frustration, I just wanted, this is his fault. I want him to change. I want him to talk nicer to me. I want him to help me more. This is on him. And with that, we did try some therapy, of course. Like we kind of looked at it as maintenance under the hood. Would you let your car go 4 years without going to get it checked out? So we kind of approached it that way. He was not 100% on board, but he did it. And therapists loved us because we could talk the talk. We could use our I statements. He's very open. He can communicate about his feelings. But we'd get back home. We'd forget about the I statements. Something would come up. And here I am feeling angry, mad. Please change. Help me more. Talk nicer. And it cycle again. You could put on the record and play it over and over. Same arguments, this looping insanity, right? Have you experienced that yourselves?
Yes, I was going. You
just basically described us.
Yes, I am your husband. I feel like. Would you agree with that voice?
Yes, and I'm you, Beth.
And so I'm always like, I don't mind sharing my opinion on things. And so I think, like you mentioned there, sometimes it can be oil and water when you're trying to, like, there's an issue that we have. You have somebody like that may be louder. I don't know which one of us is that, could be that person. But, and so how do we communicate through those things, and just any triggers too of like, what does that mean? Or I know we're going to talk about too, childhood, coming up too, but just in terms of how do we respond in those triggers? And you mentioned something too, like I tried this before. This was a couple days ago. I think I mentioned this before. I would have normally responded. We were talking about something. I can't even remember what we were talking about. We were just talking about this before. I can't remember. I would have normally responded a different way. And I was like, you know what? That hurt my feelings before. And I saw your face. You were like, you can't. She was like, I can't respond to that side. And I was like, I'm trying to practice what we talk about in the podcast, what we learn, and live it out, like you said before, because many times you can talk in front of the therapist or talk whatever, and then you get home, you go back to, well, you don't ever do this, or you don't ever do this, or I can't do, you're nagging me. We had an episode about nagging.
Last week.
Last week. So go back and watch it if you haven't seen it. And so how do we get out of that cycle? How did you guys, I know we're going to talk about some more, in those times, what were some of the first stages? You said you guys left from therapy, you had the I statements, you talked the talk when you got home, the repeated cycle. What were some of the first steps that you all did together to get out of that cycle?
You know what? I kind of took ownership of this because I kept trying to change him. It wasn't working. Obviously, something wasn't working with this. And I promote marriage counseling 100%. Yeah. We were just kind of like, we just kept settling back into our old ways. Those ways of me nagging, him wanting the crystal ball because he can't read my mind, and us just looping this argument. So what we did was we came to this crossroads, and I decided I need to start understanding myself better. And through this method, I can kind of get into this. I do a thing called hypnotherapy. It's not hypnotherapy. It's called hypnojourneying. It's like a deep meditation. It's awesome. So it's like, oh, okay, sure. It's amazing. It's kind of like, it's just a deep meditation. So it's a recorded track. It's like this little journey you go on within yourself. And I'll get into it a little bit more, but you can get into some of these unwanted emotions and the roots of them. So when you're triggered, it's not your partner that's triggering you. We're always like, you make me feel this way, but it's not, it's us. And you need to reframe triggers. Triggers, you should actually celebrate when you feel triggered. When you start to feel angry, embarrassed, this is time to jump up and down, because you're like, I've recognized this. This is something within me that I can now shift. And it's almost like playing detective, being a little investigator. Like, what is the root of this emotion? Why am I feeling triggered by my husband sharing his opinion about me, or that loud voice? Where is that coming from? So it's really fun. So I'm trying to change the mindset of triggers are awesome. Play detective. So I can get into that a little bit more, but you know what I mean by digging into that root can be exciting.
Yeah. So in other words, I think a lot of times for women, we think triggers as a negative thing, but I love what you stated there, that we should celebrate the triggers. Like, okay, wait a minute, I'm angry because, and XYZ, so like, I love what you stated there. Like, it's don't suppress them, recognize it, play detective, and explore. Why are you feeling that way? For men and women, why are you feeling that way? For sure. I love that.
So yes, okay. Let's take, because I always try to get practical too. I always hear people after these episodes like, "Oh, that was good. Beth was awesome. That touched me," and they always give me some type of practical situation, right? So anything you guys have that you've heard or you've heard from people that would sit in this moment, right? Of trying to get curious. So like, for example, and I don't want to throw one out there. So you guys, you have anything that you would say is like a common thing?
Well, I have several. Yeah. I think for one thing, for me, I have daddy issues. I guess
talk about it.
I have daddy issues only because like my father wasn't there, and it was so funny. Me and my mom, we were laughing and joking yesterday because she said she looked at her Social Security and she was like, I don't know how we made it because we was living off $1,000 a month, right? So and I commend my mom because I told her, I was like, Mama, we made it, like because it was just me and her because my daddy wasn't there. And so I have daddy issues. And so whenever Jeff says things to me, as far as like, as far as like, I should be eating sugar, sweets, and all of that stuff. And I'm like, and I always resort to, but you're not my father. Like, how dare you say something to me? But it's things that I know for me that I need to work on, and I need to be namaste it out.
Hold on. I want to say something. I thank you so much for me. I was going to mention this, and I didn't know if it was going to trigger you to say something like that.
But see, this is what I tell Jeffrey. I have to recognize it. And I think sometimes as men, they feel like they want to control, like they want to solve our issues, right? And so that's what I'm assuming that's what the Lord designed them for. Yep. But my thing is for me, as a woman, I'm like, I have to recognize what's going on. And so when he points it out, I feel like it comes off as neg, or it comes off as him being my father and all of that. And so, yeah.
Hello. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you said this. And so get into what the strategy is. So I would debate this in my head. So let's say, right. So she was trying to go on a fitness journey. We all trying to go on a fitness journey. She had a goal and she would tell me like, hey, and so I'd be like, okay, cool. I got you. I'm the type of like partner that most people don't like because I don't do cheat days and stuff like that. You say that, we're gonna rock to it. We good this place. And so like she would mention like maybe something like she may have some chocolate or something like that. And so I'd be like, okay. The first time I'd be like, are you supposed to be eating that chocolate? And so like she was like, are you my father? I'm like, that's not the same. I thought it was good. And so now I'm so glad to hear you say that of like, okay. And so my question, going back to this first piece of this may be something that could be strife for us. I don't feel like it's a deeper issue, but it's like, how can I help somebody, if it's something that you have to recognize yourself? I think many people who are listening or watching today are in the same place of, I don't know, maybe it's not chocolate or maybe it's not something like that, but it's like, I want to help them be responsible in finances or whatever in a place, but I don't want to sound like their father or mother, from a woman to a man, but I also want to, be accountable. So much in there. It's so deep in that place. I'll stop talking, but like, what would you suggest for us? And then for anybody like us, I feel like there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Let me give you this example. I have a client I work with and she has a shoe addiction. So she just loves shopping for shoes. And so she comes home with a new pair of shoes. She has a couple options. She either hides the purchase and her husband finds the MasterCard statement later, or she can tell him about the shoe purchase. And that always ends in a fight. So he has a very much save money mentality. She has, you know what, I love this. I love my shoes. And so there's two options when you tackle this one. So you look at the trigger. So the trigger that's coming up is the husband's feeling anger. She's feeling like maybe like the daddy issues possibly coming up, feeling controlled. And so she can say, in option A would be, you know what, you're right. I probably don't need another pair of shoes, but I just love my shoes so much. Or she can start to get her back up. And this is when you hear words like, but, however, should, could, would. And that's when the fights start, because you should be saving your money. We should not be spending that money. You have too many shoes. And that's when the argument starts. Well, instead of just standing in it and being like, you know what, you're right. I probably don't need another pair of shoes, but I'm confident in myself that I love my shoes. And that's just something I'm going to treat myself to. And you can hear their argument, you can hear their words, but you're not triggered by it because you can just give them love, give them empathy for where they're at, but not responding to those, and just standing in your grace, just standing in your confidence. And it changes because you're not reacting back to them. And they can have their little say, but with respect, you hear it out.
Okay.
I love that. And I love what you state about extending the grace component. Because that's one of the things that I share with Jeff often. I'm like, I don't feel like you extend grace. I feel like it's like hardcore militant. And I'm just like, and then it goes back to, I'm like, but what about, extending grace? What about, Christ extend grace to you? Why can't you extend grace to me?
That's fair. That's fair.
And I think I love what you stated about allowing that person to respond, but you don't necessarily have to combat every response. And I believe that's a challenge, sometimes for you. What would you say?
Yeah, which I'm open to hear, which I'm thinking, like, I'm playing the scenario out, right? So, okay, the militant part, I totally agree with that. That's my nature. And it's goal driven. I'm like, I want to help you. I'm thinking of, it may not be almost like medicine, right? So like, if it's something that you may not be as strong in, and I'm strong there, and if I could help you get across that, once you see the results, you'll be like, I didn't like you for that week, but I thank you now they got to that place. So I'm thinking of more, I'll get your affection on the other end of helping you achieve a goal that you may not be there. But now when I take it back, now I'm at a place of like, okay, when the situation comes up, I'm thinking the goal is here. She told me this goal. This is what's happening. How do I help get from this place to this place if I can? And I assess the situation. I'm going beep, 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 beep. Is this a place? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Are you, like that? How do I respond in those moments? And so what I'm hearing you say, so tell me if I'm wrong, is that, extending grace. And so I have my version of what extending grace is. I don't know if that's what correlates to you as extending grace. And so it's trying to, because some of it is like accountability, right? So like if I was the person buying shoes and we need this money for our finances for our home, like, I want you to extend grace, but I also don't want to be put out of our home too. So it's like, I want you to be, how do I find a balance between those two? And please tell me anything I missed from what I'm saying. Or let me just start here.
Okay.
Let me start here.
That's right. Go ahead. I'm listening.
How can I extend grace in those moments? What does grace look like? That's better. I can
hear Beth, you're gonna have to explain what does grace look like for most people?
Well, you can, I kind of take it from the standpoint of the wife, because remember, we're changing marriages and saving marriages, even when one of the partners isn't interested. Yeah. But to me, grace can be different for everyone. But for me, it's like when you're standing in your confidence, you're almost like a shining light, and it's just a beautiful place to be, where you're unwavering. You're like rock solid, and you are full of love and love for others. So when you're standing in that place, you can give you can give yourself what you need. Like with those shoes, this shoe thing can be multifaceted. It could be number one, addiction of some sort, but it really could just be something you love. And if it's coming from a place of pure love, it's a treat for yourself. Like some people like to go out and buy themselves jewelry, or they like to go treat themselves to a nice meal. But if it's the shoes and it's coming from a place of love, and it's not filling other voids, this is perfectly fine, because you're giving yourself what you need, as long as things aren't external validation. So you're not seeking out approval because of your nice shoes. Right. It's just, you're giving yourself what you need. So the shoes, you know what I mean by this. So it all comes down to standing within your grace and making sure it's internal, not external. So giving yourself what you need, hearing what you need to hear, especially, it all comes from within. You're telling yourself what you need to hear. Like, I need these shoes. I want these shoes because you know what? They make me feel awesome on the inside.
Yeah. And I would like to say this too. And this is one thing that I think for me, I struggle with Beth, is because, and I think most women, like for me, like I love peace. Like I love peace. And I feel like a lot of times most arguments is like, it's unnecessary. I work in ministry, so it's a lot of things that I see. It's like, far as feel like people coming in, people losing their husbands at a young age, people losing their children. So for me, I'm like, why sweat the small stuff? Like, I don't want to to argue over a pair of shoes, or I don't want to argue over me eating a Hershey almonds bar. Like, I don't want to. And so again, because I do work in ministry, and I'm like, I see people who go through so many other issues. So I'm like, why are we even arguing about this? And so whereas for Jeff, it's like, well, no, we need to address these issues. So I think that's where the challenge arises for us, because of trying to find the balance. Because I'm just like, look, I'm not about to sit here and argue with you over me eating a Hershey almond bar when I want this. Like, do you realize what kind of week I you know? So where do most people, and I think for people, even with the shoes, like sweating, like don't sweat. Like, that's one of the things that people told us in our marriage for a long, healthy marriage: don't sweat the small stuff. And so I have held on to that. Like, I have. And so when an argument does arise, when it's something is that I will consider small, but I'm trying to recognize, okay, well, maybe it may be small to me, but it may not be small to him. Yes. So how do you find the balance in that?
Oh, Tom,
oh my gosh, like we're hopping ahead. We're hopping ahead to the number 3 strategy, which is looking at your inner child is massive clues into saving your marriage struggles. Because it's not about the shoes, it's about something deeper that's rooted, right? If it was about the shoes, it's like you said, deeply rooted is something more. What happens in the inner child, we all have this incredible inner child. It's like this playful piece within us. But sometimes as that child, we experience certain, I like to say, wounds, or these are like kind of emotions that haven't been processed. And that could come from trauma, it could be from bullying, it could be not having all our needs met. And those things that weren't met, those unwanted, unprocessed emotions come back up often in adulthood. And like most likely they come through our relationships with our partners. So there's something that we weren't given as a child that we needed that then needs to be processed. And they come through as our triggers and through those shoe arguments. That's where they come through. It's not about the shoes.
You hit a nugget there of digging into like our childhood, how we interpret things, how we saw our parents deal with things. And like you mentioned beforehand, I think you hit it right on the head of our thing is, I don't want to take, and so I guess what I took is, I don't want to take small things and just like sweep them under the rug, or not get to some type of agreed upon solution, because to me it kind of builds up. What I'm hearing you say is like, it's not worth the energy and effort to put into it. And so like there's two sides. So it's like, okay, like if it's unresolved, then I'm thinking it's going to come back up again, and we're going to be in this cycle again that's going on through. Yeah. But I also don't want to put more on you of you saying, hey, this is something that's going on. So I feel in those moments, I feel stuck in a place of like, okay, if I don't say anything, it may be fine for the moment, but I'm going to struggle with it because I'm going to think through it so much of like, we don't have a resolution to that place. And so it's like, I think that's where a lot of couples are in that place, in big issues, small issues, or whatever. It's like one person wants to address it, one person doesn't want to address it. What is the agreed upon method we can have? And like you mentioned too, how have we seen that with ourselves as kids, like you mentioned before, of like daddy issues, or maybe somebody left you, or maybe you saw your parents arguing all the time and that's the norm of what it is. And so, so.
And I think another thing too, I think it's for everybody, not just, I think a lot of times, I think it's so easy to point out what's wrong with your spouse, right?
Oh, for sure.
And so versus being reflective of yourself, you know, and because I even tease him, I'm like, even like with his mom, like, and the thing about it with Jeff, he's the same way with everybody, even like his mom and his sister. And I was like, you are nagging them. Like, do you understand? So, you know, I'm like, you know, like, how can you be reflective? Like I think, why, I guess that this is a question. Why do we push people, or why do we feel like we have to trigger people? Like, you know, like we know what our spouse triggers are, right? For the most part, but why do we sometimes intentionally trigger our spouse?
Yeah, it's parts of ourselves that we do not own, or parts of ourselves that haven't been seen, heard, that need to be loved within. So if it's spending money, maybe you have a scarcity mindset in there. Like there's just not enough. You didn't have enough, and it doesn't assume you didn't have enough money. It could be not enough like love or compassion, something in your life you didn't have enough of. So then it comes through money. So it's a scarcity mindset that you have later on, and you project that onto others because you're actually you're just projecting into the world what you don't have, and you're trying to put that on others, that feeling of not having enough. So that's why they're massive clues. Like when you trigger others or you're triggered yourself, it's never, ever, ever about your partner. It's about you. And I'm sorry, I have a disclaimer here. If like, obviously if you're in an abusive situation, this doesn't necessarily apply. This needs to be done with proper counselors in place. But yeah, it's always about you. And that's the fun part of this is if you can take control back, you don't need to constantly get people to change, like your husband to change. You can, by recognizing those triggers, we can then get to the roots. And by getting to the roots, I use like these deep meditations, or you can a lot of times just do it through journaling. Keeping track of your triggers is an awesome way of doing this. So I have a little notes in my phone because I don't have time to write things out or keep a journal with me, but I'll just quickly write, that person was driving slow on my way to work and they're driving me crazy. Or my husband came home and said, "What did you do all day?" And probably quite nicely, but in part of me feels like there's an undertone to be like, what did you do all day? You did nothing. The house is a mess. There's toys on the floor, but really he might just be asking me what I did. So obviously part of me was like, I should be doing more. I'm not getting everything done. I'm not working hard enough. There's some underlying issue within me that I need to kind of heal and give myself what I need. And when you need to give yourself, it's something that you need to believe within yourself, some love that you need to give yourself. So you can 100% heal those parts of yourself. So you no longer feel triggered. You honestly 100% cannot feel triggered anymore.
Yes. So can you just walk us through like the meditation component? Like what does that look like?
Oh my gosh. So it's awesome. So you just get comfortable. Have you guys meditated before? Have you tried meditation?
Yes.
It's tricky. Like it's tricky to get the mind to calm. So it's kind of like riding a bike. When you first start, you'll have some mind chatter. You have to kind of think about what you're doing, but eventually you just kind of hear the music, you hear my voice, and you just kind of go into a deep sleep. So I'll be like, get comfortable and take some deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then what you're going to do from there is I'm going to kind of get you in a deep relaxation state. So I count down from like 10 to 1. And as you count down from 10 to 1, you're going to feel deeply relaxed. And I'll start counting 10, deeply relaxed. 9, your eyes are getting glued. And we go through this process where you're in a deeply relaxed state. And from there, I might ask you to bring forth an emotion that's really triggered you lately. And I want you to feel that emotion deeply. So if it's anger, you're feeling the anger within you. And then from there, you're going to ask yourself, when in a time have I felt this before? And then we can kind of reprogram that. So we're not changing memories here. You're looking at your past when you're kind of in. It's amazing what the subconscious will provide you when you're deeply relaxed, in that planning, organizing front brain that's like to-do lists of laundry, groceries comes through. You can kind of quiet that so you can go in and really be with yourself and give yourself what you needed. So you can look at whatever that past event was. So just say, let's see, I feel like maybe I needed a bit more like love as a child. Like my parents were incredible, but I'm being that sensitive creature. I just needed more hugs and cuddles and told everything's going to be fine. So I can kind of go back to that younger self and just be like, Beth, you were an amazing child. You can give yourself what you need to hear. You are loved, and just tell yourself that you are loved. And by doing that, you can kind of heal those aspects of yourself. So it's quite powerful, and you have some amazing shifts within. And the more you do it, the more you reinforce it, and magic happens. I'm not joking. You don't just transform yourself. It almost is like you are high vibes all of a sudden. Like people around you, your husband starts to pick up on this. Like, when you smile and other people smile back, it's kind of like that. Like you're just in this amazing place. Well, yeah, it's a great thing. If you heal yourself, you hear those around you. So I've seen tremendous impacts on like even my own relationship with my husband and my kids in our household and the women I work with. It's just incredible.
Perfect. Love it. So smile at so you smile there. And so it works. And so Soulify Wellness, you guys can go on Instagram, check it out. You can get into it. There's a lot of different things.
Yes, give your Instagram and your Facebook and all those good things so people can find you.
Yeah. You can find that at Soulify Wellness. So Soulify is kind of like increasing your intensity of understanding your own purpose and your true essence within you. So yeah, check me out at Soulify Wellness. And send me a message. You want to send me a direct message. I have a few goodies and gifts that I'd love to share. One of them is, I love working with women in particular. So send me a message. I have this 15-minute roadmap call that you can call, and I can give you some quick, tangible things that you can add to your marriage to get you on the right track. I have this little guide that's 5 easy and quick steps to reconnect with your spouse. You can implement them right away and start feeling connected. And then the third one is I have this like a deep hypno journey. If you want to try it, those deep meditations where you can really get in touch with like that authentic self, the one that's full of that grace and confidence and just is so grounded.
Yes.
Love it.
And
Love it.
speaking about your authentic self, like why do you feel, what's the importance of unleashing your authentic self in your marriage?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So think back to a time, you two, a time when you just felt like on top of the world, you were invincible. Like you just, can you think of a time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
Give me a second. I'm going to, okay. Yes, I do. Yes, I'm there. I'm in there right now.
Yeah, sometimes it was like people, like if they're performers, it's when they're on stage, others when they're athletic, or maybe it was getting into a university, like, or sometimes the day you got married, like you just feel like you are so full of positivity, like nothing can break you. You are so in your power. So it's that authentic version of yourself that you want to unleash into your marriage. So by filling yourself with that person, there's nothing going to rock you, nothing going to shatter you, because you are in your full worth, full deservingness, full self-love. And it's just a beautiful place to see the world from, because you can almost see it as like a little fishbowl around you. You know what's going on. So that's why it's important to unleash that. And through these deep meditations, you get to get in touch with that person. And it's magical stuff.
Awesome.
Yes. And so if you're doing the deep medication,
meditation.
Deep meditation.
Yes.
So yes, in a good place. We like to take vacations. We like to step away, and just get ourselves, especially if you have kids, especially if you have 3 kids. We have 2 kids that seem like 12 kids sometimes. And so getting away, we recommend summer breeze vacations. We love summer breeze vacations for curating luxury experiences in the Caribbean and Mexico in the warm sun, turquoise waters, and cool Caribbean breezes. Get a little drink too, but you need to get that. Are calling your name. Check out sbvacations.com. The summer breeze vacation teams caters to the most discerning of couples seeking 5-star accommodations and bestow itineraries that focus on what is important to each unique couple. We like to have a good time.
Yes.
We go to there. From anniversary trips to honeymoons to baby moons to simply just because trips, let the Summer Breeze vacation team take the pain out of planning so that you can sit back, relax, and enjoy your romantic getaway. Once again, that's Summer Breeze Vacations, sbvacations.com. It's a great place to go to Soulify Wellness. You can do the deep meditation there as you lay out and enjoy yourself and go to that inner child and exude that positive energy and smile at somebody and see how they return it back. So that's sbvacations.com. Tell them the mister sent you. You'll be part of the MF family as well. So Beth as well, I want to go back to that inner child, because I think that is huge. I was talking to some of my family members, and not many, if any, have ever really went back into their childhood and really made the correlation to how that plays a role in how they're in relationships with each other, how they see themselves, how their coworkers, how they transition, just like Dana just mentioned, vulnerability of like how if your father wasn't in your life, how that plays a role into those things. They just think this person is nagging me and not necessarily correlating to that. What would be the start of, or if somebody's listening or watching right now and they want to what, maybe that is my thing. Maybe I haven't, maybe it's not everybody else. Maybe it's something I can do. What would you, suggest for them to do if they need to go back to inner child?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the first step is really celebrating those triggers, because that is your first step. If you can see your trigger, you are well on your way, because then you're curious and you're ready to start digging into those roots. A lot of people feel nervous about starting to dig into those roots because they're scared they're going to relive some of those past experiences from their childhood. And I can understand how that's terrifying, but the incredible thing is you never relive it. You actually go back with empowerment and you're able to release it. So when you can get to that root cause, and a lot of times, sometimes you can pinpoint it yourself just consciously. Other times you need a little support, whether it's marriage counseling or whether you use these deep meditations. And you can get to that root, and you're just, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that maybe that incident in kindergarten when my teacher said you were wrong to a question just really impacted you. And all of a sudden you felt like you're not smart enough back in that day. And that kind of translates into later times in your life where it's resurfacing within your marriage and your other areas of your life. So yeah, so recognize those triggers is step one. Hooray, celebrate, yes. From there, start to dig into the root using one of those different options. So dig into the root. When you dig into the root, you can then give yourself what you needed in that time. So whether you needed love, whether you need to hear certain words, whether you need to feel a certain way. So you go back and you kind of heal yourself. You're not reliving it. You're looking at it with empowerment because you know what, you now have what you needed. So, and then what you do is you then connect with that part of yourself, and you do that by in your like regular life. Here we go, like realize I am enough and I always was enough. I was smart enough. I was loved enough. And by doing that, you can then heal yourself. So yeah, it's practice. Like it's fun. It's a little bit of work because it's not like a magic pill, but it's so empowering and it's wonderful.
Okay, cool. We try to be vulnerable here on the side. I'm doing this as you're saying this now. I want to do this too. Hey, you gotta get that. I was thinking growing up, I used to stutter, as a child. And so some of that I took with me. I remember trying to call like a young lady that I liked, and I used to sit on the phone like and not press the last button on the number because I was like, I don't know if I'm going, and so I guess anybody who's ever said it before, like you don't know, you can't control it. It's nothing that you like, let me press a button and you go through. And so I took some of that. Now you say that, I took some of that and like, I would be meticulous in thinking through things because, I didn't want to be caught off guard in something that you couldn't control. And so now I'm thinking through how does that play out in things that I say. And so I want to apologize if I've said anything like that.
Oh, thank you.
But also too, like being able to recognize when there's a trigger and then how I can act out of it. I've grown out of it, and I've even do like people pay me to talk in front of people now. So I've grown out of it, but it's the fact of there's still probably some underlying things that play a role in those things of why, why me? I used to think like, why me? Why am I going through this? And how can I overcome something at that point? So, so yeah, so I'm thinking now that is something that, could play a role in that. So being curious about it, being, let me be a detective. Let me see, is this a trigger coming up? How am I responding? Am I speaking out of emotion, anger? Like I wish something was different. And now exude that positive energy of saying, let me stay claim to, I've overcome this. This is something that's powerful.
Yeah, and I'm ready to hire you, Jeffrey. You're ready to work with me. You got it.
Let's work together.
Yeah, it's really just looking inside yourself because we want to change others to then make our marriage better. And it's an endless cycle of not working from my experience. And we just rely on external validation to try and heal and fix ourselves. But really it just comes from within. It's that self-love, that worthiness, that deservingness. And a lot of times childhood isn't supposed to be perfect. We're actually not, as parents, we feel like we mess our kids up all the time. And it's a good thing because they can go through these little struggles, and we don't want everything just handed to them on a silver platter. So it's looking back and realizing we all go through this, and to be better people, we need to keep evolving and working on ourselves.
Heal. Yes, Betty. Oh, heal somebody. Heal somebody. Then you want to dig in real quick? Or I want to put you on the spot. You want to
I dug.
Okay. I know. No, I'm just offering. I didn't want to. You don't have to. I'm just throwing it there.
Okay. And this is the type of things where.
No, I promise I was not coming. See, this is a good example. I promise I was not coming. I was like, if you had anything else, I didn't want to take credit.
No. But basically what I was stating earlier, it goes back to what I was stating earlier with my whole father situation. But I love what you said, Beth, in regards to it's okay to go back to our inner child, because it can be empowering to go back there and be like, hey, it's okay, I'm taking back control, I'm releasing everything that I have gone through, so I can move forward. I'm taking back the control over my life, because I think a lot of times we do allow those things from our inner child to hold us back, and it's so important for us to go back and be reflective of that, because like you say, our childhood wasn't perfect, even to this day, as much as we try to provide for Malia and Jace, even I just see some struggles even with my son, he wants things to be perfect, and I don't know, and he doesn't extend himself grace, and I'm like, where did this come from? Because we're like, oh yeah, Jace, it's okay, you messed up, but it's internal pressures that he's putting on himself where he doesn't want to disappoint his parents. And I'm like, baby, it's okay. I understand, so I'm grateful for this conversation, because I'm even already seeing with my son things that he's already struggling with even at 6 years old. And so I'm just trying to reinforce to him, hey, it's okay you mess up. It's okay. Like, let's walk through this. Let's talk through this, you know, because I didn't have that growing up. So for me, it's so important that I talk through those things with my own children. So
yeah, that's all we can do, right? We can keep talking about those emotions, which will help them from stuffing them down, trying to ignore them and forget them. Like, I'll tell you a quick story. My son, we're doing remote learning because we're locked down. So he's on the computer. He forgot to put his mic on, or turn his mic off, sorry. He started to do some stuff, saying some things, singing some things, and his whole class heard. He was mortified, like completely embarrassed because he didn't. And you know what, as a kid, it's hard when your peers laugh at you, and they might not be laughing at him. They might just be laughing because he's singing with his mic on.
Right.
And so he just wanted to hide that stuff behind it. I don't want to talk about it, but I'm like, we have to talk about it. We need to dig it out now before you stuff it down. And later in life, when you maybe have to sing on stage and you don't want to because you're scared people are going to laugh at you. So the more as parents that we can do, that's something we can just keep talking to our kids about their emotions, and can't force them to do it, but gently guide them to be like, you're going to feel better. I understand. You know what, whatever you say, I've probably heard or experienced myself. And then in turn, that's healing for ourselves as well, because we're being vulnerable and sharing our own emotions. Because so often we're taught just to just move on, right? Just put it behind you and keep on going. But we need to process that stuff so that as adults, it doesn't resurface, right? These little mini traumas that we've experienced.
Yeah.
Oh, you said, that's, I think that relationship there of like, almost could be the same thing with a spouse. So let's say your spouse, you know, has some type of situation at work or life, or you guys have something and the person does not want to process that or talk about it and just say, you know what, I don't want to talk about it. What advice would you give? Because I think that's where a lot of couples are too. Maybe somebody's watching this like, you know what, I want to help my spouse, and they may not be watching or listening to this episode now. What advice would you give to them that's maybe in the same place your son was, of like, you know what, I don't want to talk about this or whatever. How could they, you know, help them or talk about, you know, once you get to the root of what the issue
Oh
is?
my gosh, what a great question, because I'm all about like digging in deep and let's explore and dig it out. And most people are not in that spot, particularly my husband. So you know what, just you have to focus on yourself. You can't change others. So my advice is just to be a listening ear if they are ready. And by you honestly being in that kind of high vibe, like in that space of grace for yourself and confidence and self-love, the people around you will just pick up on it. It's like you're a vortex and you'll suck them in, and because you're not stooping down to a lower energy, and they can't stoop down to that energy. If you are at a higher energy, they'll have to either leave your life or they'll stay and they'll rise up with you. So it's not even words that need to be spoken. It's just kind of like an energetic thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I love what you state that. And so going back to where people leave your life, it's okay for them to leave your life, right? It's okay. I think a lot of times we want to hold on to people that may be dragging us down, you know, because you're trying to get to their inner peace and all of that. So can you speak more about that?
Yeah.
Like, how can you be okay with people leaving your life because you are at that high energy, good vibes only level? So
Yeah, Dana, that's such an awesome question, because the women I've worked with, I have a couple that we did not save their marriage, but what happened was they were in such an amazing place. They were grounded and full of love that they could actually release their husband. Unfortunately, like it just wasn't a healthy thing for them anymore. And so back to your question, yeah, like people it's kind of like seasons of life, right? And when we often sometimes marry our partners, it's almost like they complete us. They're our other half. But
I've heard
actually,
all of that.
but it's almost kind of a bad thing, because we almost want to be married to people that are similar to us, because if they're our opposite or completing us, that's aspects of ourselves that we need to give ourselves. So when you can do this and give yourself that love, the worthiness, the deservingness, and you don't need it externally from your partner, you can be grounded. And if they do leave, you're not going to feel that attachment necessarily, because there's all kinds of unhealthy attachments, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment. So and anxious is one that I've experienced, where I want to hold on to people because I want and I crave and I need their love, because there wasn't enough self-love within me, or worthiness or confidence. So yeah, to answer your question, if you're in the space that you need to be, your full grace, then you can let them go and it won't be as painful.
Awesome.
Beth, you preaching, as we say down in the South. You preaching. That's good stuff. That's good stuff there. Also too, just how has your inner child, I guess, think about the inner child piece, right? And so revealing why, that might have initially attracted us to the person we're with. I know a lot of people who have some, like, I don't know why I keep getting the same person, or, in that place. Why, or what can you tell us about something about an inner child shows us who we're attracted to or were initially attracted to in our spouse?
And to stand upon that even more, like why, especially like for some women, you probably seen this better where, especially when you're dating, you attract the same type of person, and you're like, this is not even the type of person I want to be with, but it continues to attract the same type of person. So why? And even for men, I think for men too, they attract the same type of women, because I like to be, equal here.
Yeah, I'll say something for men. Yeah. I would agree. I think we attract. I think it's something about that we look. It's a quality that we look for. Maybe it's the same thing with women, but I'll let Beth. So Beth, inner child. What about our inner child makes us be attracted to something, in our spouse initially or whatever that is?
Oh my gosh, yeah, this is such a. Well, we could spend a whole nother hour on this question, but. We're really looking at my own situation with my husband. So here I am, kind of this sensitive creature. He's this like strong, bold, like very out there. And I'm like not great at expressing my opinions, feeling a little timid. He does that for me. So in that way, I was attracted to him because he could do the things that I didn't have within me. And I probably did at one point, but something happened in my childhood. It could have been something as like that situation in kindergarten, possibly, when someone told me I was wrong. And I just took that so personally because I believed it was right. And I then became more quiet in my life. So little things happen, and looking back, you're like, I didn't even realize that impacted me. It seems so simple as an adult mind, you can process it better, but as a child, your world's so small and things are magnified and so drastic when they happen. So then all of a sudden I become this person that's maybe not as bold and can share my opinions, but then my husband can do that for me. So I'm attracted to that, but then I get stronger in myself. I'm like, those loud opinions are driving me insane. I don't want to hear them anymore because I can express them myself. So then you almost outgrow that person a little bit, but then they're your spouse. You want to stay with them for life, obviously. So then you have to work through that stuff together. And so that's why you're originally attracted. And it's constantly those seasons of life within marriage, those ups and downs and navigating those.
Yeah, great point. Oh my goodness, Beth, you just spoke my whole life because, because that's one of the things that I did love about Jeff, that he did make people laugh, and he did able to communicate and express himself, and he found his voice. And now that I am maturing more, and I'm like, I'm becoming into my own, and I'm like, oh, I can speak up for myself now, so now it does become like it can become a struggle. And so like you say, you do find yourself working through that, like, okay, he's still the head of the household, he's still, so you do find yourself those up and downs of like trying to work through it.
Yeah, you just spoke. You guys are us. Just in Canada.
To me, we can hang out for sure.
Yes, exactly. I love that. I love that. I feel like I know him already, just in a sense, but he is me, and I could speak to that same voice of the same thing, right? So like, I was comical, and your father. I mean, you said it at the beginning.
Yeah.
I want you to say something about this place.
So for those, my father, which, I love my father, even regardless of everything, I love my father. And one of the things is so funny because although Jeff reminds me a lot of my biological father, like they both love to make people laugh, like, all of that stuff. It's just Jeff settled. My father wasn't the settling type. So, but
he's still working on it.
Yeah. So, but it's so funny that, considering that I still found somebody similar to my father, although he wasn't, around. So I think it goes back to, and now that's making as I work it through my inner self, that's one of the reasons why I probably do say the statement, "You're not my father," because some of the things he does remind me of my father.
High five, Beth. High five in the camera, Beth. High five.
There we go.
Right in the camera. There we go.
So yeah.
So true. It's so true. We often marry partners that are very similar. Like my husband would say I'm similar to his mom, and he's definitely similar to my father. And there are some theories out there that we marry similar spouses to our parents because we almost need to work through some of those things we didn't receive that we wanted. Like our parents are awesome. They're doing the best they can.
Oh,
So this is not
most
about bashing parents. They did the best
Oh
they can
yeah,
with the
sure. We love you,
they
parents.
had.
Parents, we love you.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We wouldn't be where we are without them. So
Thank you.
yeah,
I know I
Thank
love
you,
you, mom
Corey.
and dad. This isn't about you.
Yes.
This is all about me. But what
yes,
happens
it's
is
me. It's me.
we marry a spouse that's similar because there's aspects of ourselves that we didn't get that we needed, like was some of that love or that commitment or words that need to be said from our parents, and we kind of redo it again with our spouse, and we're looking to them to give us what we needed, but really we just need to give it to ourselves. So that's often why we marry similar. Yeah, it's so common. It's a thing.
So that's why. So you saw me, you saw your father and me. That's what we attracted. And then when I started to say something, you're like, you're not my father. I make so much sense.
And so, and then, yeah. And so, and like Jeff's mom is like she's like the matriarch, right? Mm-hmm. So like, she's a take charge type person. Jeff's father was fine with that. And so he married somebody that's a take charge person. Well, it's a struggle for him because he was like, you know, because I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like, I am a take charge type person. And I'm like, but you married me. You knew who I was.
Not necessarily a little bit. But no, you're right. I think you're spot on there. Totally agree
but
with
the thing about it is his dad was fine with the take charge approach. Whereas for him, it is a little struggle with somebody being the take charge person because
So my dad, right, he liked to take charge because he didn't have to do it. Like somebody's gonna do it, I don't have to worry about that. I'm always like communicate like something with me, right? So when we first got married, like it'd be like, oh, you know, my mom would have done it the same way you did it. Your mom would have done the same way you did it. And you did the same way. And I'm like, no, ho. I need to be on the preliminary conversations before the decision is made, and which is very different than what my father, you know, would have done. And so
like, for example, we love taking vacations.
Yes.
Jeff's mom, my mom, my mom's the type of person, she gonna plan a vacation, just show up. And so Jeff's mom, you know, would just say, I'm gonna plan it and show up. Whereas Jeff is like, no, I need for you to communicate with me what the vacation is. So that's something I had to learn because but it's so funny because both of our moms did it and his mom did it.
Struggle Beth, because I would be like, didn't we just have a conversation? So it'd be like, but it was so natural for her to see, okay, I thought men like for us to just plan. I was like, maybe they do. Raise my hand. I would like to be communicated with just in case, you know, because of I just wanted to be on the same page so nothing was a surprise.
Or even like our wedding, like I thought, like even like our wedding, he was like, no, I want to be in charge of like discuss what we planning to do for our wedding. I'm like, what? Who does this? Most of the time the women plan, women, we plan everything and like,
struggle for us. And we even say this too, Beth, we would have been the perfect spouse for like the traditional husband and traditional wife, like most men don't want to communicate. They tell, like, I want to come home, work, let's just watch sports or whatever. I'm like, hey, I've stored energy at this place to communicate with you about, hey, have I achieved your love language today? What do I need to do to get to that place? She's like, listen, you're too much, it's too much. And so, and then vice versa on the other side of like that. And so that is the work that, you know, typically, you know, like on the other side of those, they've been able to communicate that. And so any advice for us, I guess that's for us. I feel like we may be reversed for other people of their place, but I think just any advice for, you know, your inner child had attracted this person. We would have now. We've already signed a lifetime deal. Now we're trying to work through those things. And any thoughts you have from what we just shared there?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are amazing. You are well on your way. Step 1 is you're communicating. Step 2, you're already recognizing your triggers. 3 is a bonus. You guys can do this together. It's not like Dana or Jeffrey, you guys have to do this on your own. You can chat about these triggers and actually enjoy them. Like my husband and I kind of laugh. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's another one. That's one I need to work on. So it's fantastic when you can do this together. You don't have to, but it's so much more fun. So start like laughing about your triggers. When you're angry, call it out on yourself. You know what? I can put my pride aside and I am angry and it's not at you, even though I want to be mad at you. This is about me. And just getting to that place, where you start owning your emotions. That's what you guys can do.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Let's set some up for everybody, right? So if you're listening, even for us, we need a code word when that trigger comes up. So if you feel like a trigger, and I'll do the same thing. If I feel like a trigger comes up, Beth, you have a code word, and then you have a code word that we can just use at that point in time of saying either one of us is like, you know what? I don't know, like I don't know if it's pineapple, whatever it could be, just something that's like, just a reflection moment, like, oh, I want pineapples. Oh, I'm not mad at you at all. I'm mad at, I need to be reflective for a moment. I'm mad because I've never, I felt taken advantage of financially for a while. So this is what's coming out of this place. Or the shoes thing is this, I get some type of dopamine feeling from buying the shoes. And I really want that dopamine feeling from you. That to me, I think that soothes a bear down of anger, but like a trigger word. What's something we can say at those moments? I feel like this week, I don't know, Beth, you have one, or Dan, you have one.
We tried that. That was one of the suggestions our counselor suggested, was come up with a trigger word. And again, we used it, and then a week later it was gone and we were back at it.
What did you guys do?
We now just call it as it is. What was it? I can't even remember. It might have been like big voice or something. I don't know. It wasn't like as clever, funny as pineapple, but so we've given up on that. Now we just name it. It is what it is. And I'm like, okay, it's something I need to work on. But thank you for that. Great. I need to do this to kind of dig into that.
And it may just need to be something that's just trigger and call it what it is and just go ahead and discuss it. Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny when he talks about the financial thing yesterday, it's Mother's Day. And so happy Mother's Day to all the moms that we didn't get to speak to. But yesterday was Mother's Day, and we was at Jeff's mom's house, and she was telling us a story about how, so Jeff has always been cheap, right?
Efficient is what I
efficient, whatever you want to call it. He's always been cheap. But she was talking about how he used to collect $2 from his friends when they used to go to the parties that was literally less than 5 miles from their house. They all stayed in the same neighborhood. And I asked him, I was like, but weren't you going to the same location? And he was like, yeah, but I see. And she was talking about how he used to talk about the mates and all of that stuff. And I said, and I thought about that afterwards. I was like, dang, Jeff brought some of that over to our marriage.
All of it.
As far as all of it, which that could be a challenge for us, because I'm like, I'm not your friend, I'm your wife. We are in this partnership. I mean, you're my friend, but what I'm saying is we're in this together. Because even the other day, I drove his car because I had an event this weekend. And so he sent me a message, was like, my truck is empty. The truck is empty. And I'm like, dude, put some gas in there. I am not your...
I can tell you where it comes from. I can save you time. I can tell you where it comes from. It comes from, I've never seen anybody be, don't judge me, this is a safe place. I've never seen anybody be spoiled and be appreciative of it to where it is a place. I've seen more of the negative sides of people being not accountable or not contributing to something, and then it's more of the left side. So I need to see more examples of, this is me, I'm being honest, completely honest. I haven't seen examples of people being, I don't know if it's spoiled is a better word, but spoiled for something and then them not take advantage of it. So what I've taken into this, I think you're exactly right, is the fact of this is correlation. If A happens, B does not happen. Or like that. So it's yes. So,
this is so good. You just brought up an amazing point. You got this down. So a big piece of this, to know it's possible, to give yourself what you need. Right now I'm hearing maybe a bit of a scarcity mindset and feeling like there's never going to be enough in the bank. I need to save it for a rainy day, even though you have the money in the bank that you might want to spend and you might want to save. That my husband and I are very much like this. I'm the saver, he's the spender. And I'm always probably, even if there was $100,000 sitting in the bank, there probably still wouldn't be enough. And I'd still be probably trying to use the coupons at the store. So where this comes from, there we go. Is a lack mentality that I have, that there's not enough. So I need to see it's possible. So there's this whole, there is a psychology behind this. All this stuff is deeply rooted in psychology and neuroscience. And the psychology piece of it is that you need to see it to believe it. So you need to have examples in your life of people that are similar demographics, that have similar amounts of money, that they can take certain risks within their business. Yes. And that is going to work out, that you will have enough money. And part of that's trust as well, trusting your inner knowing that, this is where I'm meant to be, and not letting limiting beliefs from society, parents be like, you're crazy for starting your own business, or why don't you have a normal 9 to 5? You need your benefits. You need your, I think you call it, is it 4K1? What do you call your pension in the States?
401k,
403b. Yeah, you want to have stability, but if you're doing your own thing, you need to have that trust and that knowing. You need to see other people just like you in your situation, doing the comedy, the podcast, the ministry, that are doing well and succeeding in their lives. So And once you know it's possible, you'll believe and you can get rid of some of that lack mentality and that scarcity mindset.
Beth, you read me. You read
yes, you just read him.
You read the entire thing. Go to Soulify Wellness.
Yes, and that was the thing. I'm just told. I was like, Jeff, I'm your wife, and it became so much clear. It became clear yesterday when she was just sharing the story. She has no idea how much she even helped me, because it put things into perspective with me. I'm like, wow, he is just so afraid. I don't know if it's fear, but of just like not having enough, or so. I'm like, but it's coming over into our marriage where I'm like, I feel like I'm being treated as one of your friends versus your wife. Cause I'm just like, cause I drive a car, I don't have gas, right? So I haven't been to the gas station, right? So I'm like, but Jeff, it's okay. Just go to the gas station and put gas in there.
Oh no, that was an issue. I've done some work here. And it comes from what you guys have shared there. And it's the fact of I've been in a place that I looked at this, right? And so besides like being a child, I've always had to have been the last line of defense, right? So I've never had to like be on my last and having to call somebody else for something. So, but I've had to be there for other people. So it's like, I've internalized that as, if I'm not the last line of defense, there's no other, it's like God, in a sense, but it's like, I've had to be that person to do it. So it's like, I have to keep these things. If not, the whole system crumbles in itself. So it's nothing against you, nothing personal against you.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
This is the way I feel like I have to operate. If not, then almost like a bank and trust, right? Like I'm the secure with the gold, right? Or whatever it is. If I and this is crazy, this is my mind going, but it's like, I know that it's so ingrained in me. It's hard not to not be that person in those times, especially with finances or anything like that. It's like, okay, I have to keep us balanced, structured, budgeted. If not, the whole thing crumbles out of the sense. And so I'm trying not to be that, but it's hard.
Yeah, you nailed it. It's an ingrained belief that you've picked up at some point in your life, and it's so in you. That is who you are, and that's what you know. But it's not actually your authentic way of being. So when we can get in touch with that authenticness, then you'll realize you can shed that belief that you have, that you're the last line of defense, and you can give yourself what you can kind of go back in time and give yourself what you need to be like, I'm not the last line of defense. There are actually these and these resources in place. So when you can give yourself that, you can ditch that scarcity mindset, that last line of defense, that weight that's on your shoulders, those burdens and those walls, they will all be released. And you will just be Jeffrey, the authentic man.
Yes.
Let it go, man.
Yes. And it's so funny, Beth, because my love language, we talk about 5 love languages and stuff like that all the time. And my love language is like, one of them is service. And gifts, right?
That's my number one. Accessory.
Yeah. So it's so funny because when Jeff says comments, like he's never seen a positive thing of somebody being spoiled. But I'm like, but you have a wife. I want to be spoiled, but I have your back. Like I prove it every single day with taking care of the kid.
You want to get mysterious about it. You're making a statement. Only thing is getting deep with it. Oh no. I'm saying you see it in terms of digging in there. You made a statement. I was saying to dig in to help scoop that out of me.
Okay, got it. So it's one of those things where I'm just like, so this is something that I desire. Like that fills my love tank, right? So when that's not being done, like I don't know, it's kind of like it's you want to fill each other love tank, but when you feel like your love tank, so it's hard to.
Who feels the other one empty? So like if both are empty, who pours into the other one? So that I feel like we need to do a whole episode on that.
That is 100% another area that my husband and I have a disagreement on. So actually, that's probably one of the strategies we start. Like after counseling, we started digging into love language, which is super powerful because when you can understand each other's love language, you'll stop trying to project like acts of service onto him because he doesn't really need to care. Well, my husband's is like physical touch. I think that one. And when you're tired, exhausted, and not feeling appreciated, that's the last thing you want to do is give someone some physical touch, right? So how do you do that? A lot of this, you can still dig into those triggers. Like, why do you not want to give them something? Like you love them, you've committed to them. Why is it that I don't want to give him his love language? So obviously there's some stubbornness there, some like greediness, like I need to get what I want first and then I'll give to others. So digging into some of those feelings as well. It's all about emotions. So like this work is you got to dig deep into those emotions to figure out where you're coming from, where those beliefs are that you are, you need to take care of yourself. Maybe you feel like you'd be taken advantage of, possibly. Like it depends what those roots are. So you got to dig into those roots and figure out where those emotions are coming from. Because it's not that you don't want to give them their love language. It's something else that's keeping you from it. It's not about your partner. That's the number one takeaway. It's about you, not your partner.
It's about you. Yes. It's not about your partner. It's about you.
Ooh, Beth, she said something there. That, just that piece. I know we got to close, but that piece there, what she said there of I think that is it. Like, mine is not one to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So,
and it's so crazy. I think most partners feels like you don't want to be taken advantage of, right? No partner wants to feel like, but I think for me, I'm like, when you made that commitment, right? Like you made that commitment, I think it goes back to what you're stating is, it's not about your partner. It's about you. It's like something that you have to work on internally. And I think it goes back to just being reflective, because you married this person, right? Like, so if anything, that's one person that would. Now, the outside world, yes, they may take advantage of you, but when you are in this together, like, I think it goes back to like being reflective of your childhood, like what were you taken advantage of? Whereas for me, I'm such a giver. Like, even when people have like mistreated me or whatever, like it's still something in me like that just wants to show compassion and still give, whereas Jeff like, nope, don't cut you off. Like,
that's why I think some of it comes from that same thing. So if I'm with somebody as a giver, I can also be that same level, because then that goes back to what we said earlier, then the system crumbles itself. So it's like trying to find a balance to be able to communicate that. That's exactly what I feel like. Okay, if you're doing this, somebody has to make sure that the anchor is there. And so, it goes back to one of those things of digging deeper to that place, and then being able to pour. Some of you guys just said too, of being able to pour from an empty fountain, like, okay, who goes first in those moments? And is it the man? Is it, does the wife, or do we both try to continue to push through? How, especially if you're not being reflected or your partner's not being reflected, you can be in like, I drew my line of sand, you on your line of sand, we could just be sitting here and saying, okay, I'll wait for her to do this and then I'll do that. I think it's where most people they're waiting on their partner to do this, and then, okay, I'll open up, I'll do gifts, or I'll do physical touch, or I'll do, things once they do that. And I think it's trying to communicate, for me, it's like, how can I communicate those expectations without, what I'm saying? It's like, how can we better communicate our expectations of each other, I think. So like, I
feel like it comes down to your authentic self. Like when because I hear stubbornness. If you're waiting, why are you waiting? What's that feeling there, right? So if you're in touch with your authentic self, then you're going to do what serves you best. You're going to do that high vibe. You're going to be the better person because you're in your zone. So when you're in that zone, it'll just happen. It's no waiting. It happens. You go to that knowing, that intuition, you kind of step past the ego that's blocking you. The ego's purpose, it's not all bad ego, but it's really just trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you from experiencing uncomfortable feelings. But if we can step past the ego and just get into that subconscious, those deeply rooted things, and release them. And the release is incredible. I should mention real quick, like you feel it you feel it go. And it's like this weight lifts off. Like when you can hit and pinpoint, you're like, I didn't even know that was there, but now it's gone. It's an incredible feeling. So yeah, back to that last piece, like nobody should be waiting if you're working from your true self.
Thanks.
Yes. Beth, you've been amazing.
Give Beth a round of applause. Soulify. We're at Soulify Wellness on Instagram. Send her a DM, a message. I know you experience. She's read my whole life in this. So please reach out to her. She has a lot of resources. Go on her page. You find a lot of different things that I know can help a lot of you guys who have reached out to us. Beth can help you guys at Soulify Wellness. You'll be able to let Beth, anything that you want to share, with anything with our listeners.
As we conclude, yes.
Oh my gosh, just on a whole side note, your theme song is so catchy and it's always stuck in my head.
You want to sing it? We got to get you to sing it. We got to get you to sing it, Beth. Yes, we got to get Beth to sing it. Okay, you ready? Y'all ready? You want to do it now? We can do it now? No. Beth, finish Finish what you were saying. I'm sorry, I jumped in there too quick, and we'll get you to sing it in just a second.
Yes, but anything else you want to share?
Oh my gosh, no, yeah, just check me out, Soulify Wellness. I have those gifts for you. I'd love to do a 15-minute quick marriage roadmap call with you, give you your 5 ways to connect with your spouse. And if you want to try this deep meditation, I'd love to send you the audio track and get you digging out those emotions, those roots that are down deep, and connecting with your authentic self so that you can like step into your most authentic self within your marriage, who's no longer triggered. You're just in your like most amazing love, grace, deservingness, worthiness. So yeah, check me out. I'm happy to help.
Yes. And then Beth, just want to teach on this even more and just expand upon this. Not only would it help you in your marriage, but it would trigger over into your career, so you're being a parent, everything. So it's just once you get to your true authentic self, it will impact so not only your marriage relationship, but other relationships. So even for those that's not married, it will also it would impact, every, your relationships in general.
Yeah, Dana, that's a great point. Like the hypno journey, the audio track is for anyone. Like you don't, it's not just marriage specific. So yeah, reach out to me, and it's just amazing. You start this work and every aspect of your life transforms. So it's not just pinpointing one or the other. So that was a really good point you made.
Good deal. Awesome.
So all of our single MFs, Mr. Family, be sure to go to Soulify Wellness, and you can get there too. It'll be great too if we did this work before we got married too. How much more present we've been coming into it, where you're already able to see triggers like, I was going to respond differently, and being able to say that, like, wouldn't that be wonderful to do this? So go to Soulify Wellness on Instagram, send her a DM, get the track and whatnot too. Now, let's go ahead and sing. We'll go ahead and sing the song. Y'all ready to sing the theme song? That's another thing. Yes. Okay, then let's kick us off. Come on. 1, 2, 3.
Laugh, learn, love.
Come on, Beth.
Laugh, learn, love.
Are you doing it wrong?
Hold on. Time out.
I always do live, laugh, learn. Laugh, learn. First we have to laugh.
Yes. No. First. Yeah, laugh first, then you learn, and then you love it. So laugh.
Yes. I got it mixed up. Sorry. Yeah, so laugh first.
Yeah, laugh first, and then you learn like we did today in terms of the triggers, childhood, all those things, and then you can love each other better after you do those things together. So yeah. Okay. So laugh, learn, love. Okay.
Y'all ready? Okay.
1, 2, 3. Come on, Ben.
Laugh, learn, love.
You're wrong again. You just keep going. I'll just snap.
With Mr. and Mrs. Mister.
Laugh, learn, love. Laugh, learn, love. Laugh, learn, love.
Mrs. Mister.
And that's our show. Hey.
Oh, yes. And we got to do the Mr. Much before we leave out, right? I know people argued in this episode. You can feel the tense moments here, but we try to work through it. I don't know if y'all can tell on the other side. There are tense moments during this time. I was looking at her eyes. She was looking at me like, so we worked through it. I'm glad. I love the tense moments though. Like I feel like we get more deeper there. I'm not afraid of that. So if you argued in this episode, you didn't agree, look each other in the eyes, and you're gonna say these 3 things: I like you, I love you, and I want you. So regardless, especially anytime this works, we tried this before. We weren't talking to each other for 2 days. Look at each other and like,
I like you, I love you, and I want you.
All right. You made it through. Yes. Thank you, Beth. Again, give Beth.
Yes.
Soulify Wellness. Please, right now, go follow her.
Yes,
right
I
now.
just did.
Pause right now. Go follow Soulify Wellness. Wonderful, Beth. We got to bring you back on again. I feel like you read my whole life, and we got to bring you back on again. This has been wonderful.
Yes.
Please go check her out. Yes. Wonderful things. Perfect. This could have not came in a better time. So thank you guys listening. Follow us on social media, mr.mrs.mister, Mr., Mrs., Mr. MR. Yes. And thank you. We love you guys. Hit that subscribe and all those things to drop us a rating on Apple Podcast. Yes. And just go follow Soulify Wellness. We thank you guys. It felt good. I'm gonna do some of this work in just a minute and get us deeper. So thank you. We love you. God loves you. And ain't nothing you can do about it. All right. Thank you. Subscribe. New episodes every Tuesday of the Laugh, Learn, Love podcast with Mr. and Mrs. Mister.